Hola and welcome to a new episode of the Roofless Dog and Pony Show. My name is Julio Panicello. I am the dream alchemist at Roofless Painters, an art school, a free-range art school and gallery for creative nomads of all stripes. With each episode, we reveal the theme of our next painting collection so you can find out what we will be painting next and the reason why. We do this every single week. So, we discuss the origin of the painting theme and its contemporary context, as well as exploring different possibilities for visual representation on our work. And we use images of paintings throughout art history as inspiration, citing stylistic and historical references, hoping that those can help us get inspired to paint a new subject or the subject proposed for the week. In many ways, our episodes are like our paintings, messy, unpredictable, and unvarnished, so you just never know what we're going to say and what's going to happen. So please stick with us. The episode will last 30 minutes or less, and if there are any interruptions, don't leave. You can find all episodes on our Instagram and also on our YouTube channel, so they're all there for free. You can just watch them anytime, but you can also listen to the episodes as podcasts on any podcast platform. You just have to type the Roofless Dog and Pony Show, and a bunch of episodes will pop up in case you are joining a class or a session and you want to find out about what we're going to be painting. You can just listen to the podcast and get an idea of the subject and the reasons why we are proposing that subject. So we also recommend those if you are having difficulties falling asleep. You can just play the episodes, and we guarantee it's just immediate. You're gonna fall asleep like within seconds. Anyhow, you are welcome to contact us at any time with questions, comments, contributions. We do our best to prepare the episodes so the content is as accurate as we can make it, but sometimes, all the time, we stand to be corrected. So if there's anything that you want to contribute to make the episode better, please leave us a comment or send us a note, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that in the episode. So thank you. And we kind of go through the script at the beginning of the session just because it gives people time to join. So that's why week after week we go down and have a little document, and we go down the list of introducing the episodes and what this is about, and this gives people some time to join. But we're gonna go ahead. Before that, we decided we're gonna open a clubhouse room right after the episode in the way we did it before a few months ago, because we're gonna introduce the book. We're gonna be reading this, or we are reading, some of us, this fall, this season. So please join us if you have some time. We'll keep it short, and we'll introduce the book and read a few excerpts, because it's gonna be very inspirational, and we're having a lot of fun, and there are a lot of things about the book that are helping us stick with our practice and commit to painting as much as possible. So I'm just gonna share a few images, but before that, I am just going to send them to my phone. So here we go. So this week, or this past couple of weeks, we're just in the middle of it. I don't know if you have been able to listen to it or not, but we are celebrating, honoring, observing Hispanic Heritage Month. So it goes from September 15 to October 15. And October is tomorrow, and a lot of things are happening in October, and I think the conversation is just gonna sort of like take a turn tomorrow, and a lot of the events and things that have been or are planned about Hispanic Heritage Month are not gonna be as predominant. It's hard enough to hear about these important celebrations or observances. So much more when there's the plate is completely full. But yeah, Hispanic Heritage Month, we're going to talk a little bit about it, and we're going to propose a theme subject that's related to that in a way that we hope it's inclusive and respectful, because there are a lot of voices under that umbrella. So I think we're just going to mention, just in case, what is Hispanic Heritage Month. It's a celebration that it started in the late 60s, actually, and there was a representative from LA who is the one who proposed this celebration, and it was initially a week, but out of all presidents, Ronald Reagan just expanded it to a month. But it's a time that has specific significance for many people, because it celebrates or recognizes the contributions of people with Hispanic or Latin or Latinx heritage that are living in the U.S. and how much they have contributed to the overall culture and identity of the country. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more specific, because the term Hispanic for some people it's just a little bit problematic. So Hispanic Heritage Month, the term Hispanic used to be the old umbrella to sort of like identify communities, groups of people that had like Latin culture or Hispanic culture. And by the way, this is not about race or skin color. Hispanic Heritage Month is about cultural references that people bring to the United States that are contributing to the culture here. So it's not a celebration of race, it's a celebration of culture that contributes to everyone. So Hispanic is problematic because of the origin of the word from Spain, and since there's a very important effort in decolonizing language and terms, a lot of people feel like Hispanic is not a good umbrella. So the term moved from Hispanic to Latin culture, Latino. But the term Latino also, it's very binary. So a lot of people didn't feel like Latino or Latina included a lot of people that don't identify with a binary gender. And then the term Latinx appeared in the early 2000s in order to make these a little bit more inclusive. But we've learned that a lot of people in the Latinx community are also finding this term problematic, because it was coined, it's an English word, and it was coined by a bunch of people in elite educational institutions to try to find a term, an English word that would define people with a broader spectrum. So since Hispanic has the origin in Spain and Latinx is an English word, we're hearing that some people are using the word Latine, also a non-binary Spanish speaking or Spanish or as language or term, Spanish word that defines this group. But we love learning about definitions and umbrellas, and also it's important to make a little bit of an effort and understanding how communities identify themselves, because with the term Latinx that it's being used so frequently right now, initially it was a term just applied to non-binary and transgender Hispanic individuals, but then now it's extended to anyone with a Latino or Latina culture. So it seems a little bit complicated, but it's not, and just a little Google search will clearly give you, we'll be happy also to send you some references to give you the history of the term and how it evolved since the late 60s up to today, and how language is slowly catching up with the incredibly rich diversity of each of the communities that form this umbrella, I guess. So the date is important because a lot of countries in Central America and Latin America celebrate their independence from Spain starting September 15th. And I'm just going to have to read, but essentially, September 15th was chosen as the kickoff because it coincides with the Independence Day celebrations of 5 Central American neighbors: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Those 5 nations declared their independence from Spain on September 15th, 1821. So after that, September 16th, it was Mexico who declared its independence. And then it was Belize in September 18. So there is like this domino effect, and that coincides in a very, very specific week, so the first week or the third week of September, rather. But it sort of like expands because October 12th, it's a really controversial date that thankfully it changed from Columbus Day to something that it wasn't related to colonial imperialism. So that's the reason why September 15 to October 15 comprises a lot of dates that are very charged, highly significant for many people who live and work and love and paint in the U.S. but have heritage in countries with in Latin American countries. So also Hispanic Heritage Month is not exclusively related to Spanish as a language, so it's not a racial holiday, and it's not a holiday based on or an observing period based on language, because there are a lot of indigenous people that don't identify with necessarily with the language being their primary source of or their primary identity, cultural identity, and they're also the AFRO LATINX, which are people of Black people essentially, but from Latin American countries. So it's a big amalgam and melting pot that it's fascinating and interesting, and we've decided to bring examples of paintings by Latinx artists throughout history, and most of them are not portraits, and by the way, we're going to do a portrait assignment, but we just sort of like went to the Smithsonian collection because they do a very good job at actually observing this period of time. And Latinx artists, there's this conception that it's all Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, and that's about it. And we're gonna try to expand a little bit more because for some people that's borderline insulting, because it's not the only representation of Latinx visual arts, I would say. But at the same time, these are the most famous artists that people can think or come to mind when we think about Latinx artists that have contributed to American culture. So I would say Frida Kahlo being the most famous one, but there are more beyond Frida Kahlo, and we love Frida Kahlo, and she's an amazing artist. But so let me see if I can bring some images of other painters that, yeah, so this is a painting by Gustavo Ojeda, born in Havana, Cuba in 1859. And it's titled, does it have a title? No, it doesn't. It's pastel on paper, and you cannot see very much the entire painting because I should have done a better job. But architectural subjects, loneliness, separation. Everyone thinks Edward Hopper, but there are other contributors to that sort of like ethos of isolation and segregation and what's the word? It'll come to mind, but yeah. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about it, but I will think about it because that's an issue that happens to a lot of neighborhoods that have tried to keep communities together, but right now they're being not invaded in the sense of like someone is going there to destroy their livelihoods, but they are sort of like being open to well, anyhow, if you know the word, please just put it on the comment. But gentrified, yes, gentrification has always been an issue that has been impacting communities, Hispanic, I would say, or Latinx, maybe Latinx communities. And by the way, if you ever have a conversation with someone, just be very mindful that they may just feel they want to be, or they prefer to be identified not as Hispanic, although the majority of, more than 2/3 of people in the community prefer that term, but not everyone. So just be a passive and an active listener and see how that person prefers to identify themselves. Latino, Latina. The word Latina also is a word that has been for some people corrupted or co-opted and appropriated, and it defines or it has like negative connotations about the female gender, and some people are not happy about that. But anyhow, yeah, so this is one of the paintings, and I'm just gonna bring another painting. Botero, Fernando Botero, Colombian, 1932, and he's always known for the overweight or bigger figures, and I remember Botero when I was a kid, and then I thought that was like so much fun and so beautiful, colorful, and there are a lot of Botero sculptures that popping up in different cities in the U.S., and he is acknowledged as an artist that has contributed to the culture of the country, but at the same time, I'm not certain until what measure he's considered an iconic or a big figure in the arts overall. But yeah, this is like a different Botero. This is a Botero of a small town, and it has a Botero palette, but at the same time it doesn't represent any figures, and that's why we love. And this is titled Dog Turning a Corner, and I don't know if you can see it between the comments, but there's a little tail, the tail of the dog that is showing on the corner of this the small town, I would say. So I'm just gonna bring another image from another Latinx visual artist, and this is another one that we love. It's titled Capitolio, and the artist is Emilio Sanchez, born in Cuba as well, and it's a representation of a Capitol building, and it just also gives us vibes of De Chirico, the surrealist Italian painter from the early 20th century, I would say. Yeah, De Chirico, so just no figures, perspective, and a word, the capital, that on the title has been appropriate it and turn into a Spanish word, Capitolio. I think that's an actual, I should know if that's an actual Spanish word. But yeah, that's also part of the permanent collection of the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And that is a museum, a public museum that is doing a very good job at being inclusive and just acknowledging parts of the collection that represent different parts of the society that we all share. So yes, and I'm just gonna bring another example of a different Latinx artist. This is Sherazade Garcia, born in Santo Domingo, and this is titled La Guadalupe, and that is, I think this is actually, yeah, I think this is a digital painting. I'll find out, but so this is a good example of what we talked about, how Latinx artists have always been sort of like swept under the rug of art history for many reasons, because there is this idea that artists born and working in Latin American countries, they almost have like a different prestige, because when they are successful and recognized globally, there is something about their national identity that makes them more acceptable or recognizable. But with Latinx artists living and working in the US, there's a layer, there's another glass ceiling. There's a little bit of a difficulty in breaking that nationality, because there's a diversity there, and then they are part of a broader society. So there's always been this difficulty by artists to reach out to collectors or museums or galleries because of that aspect, and also the fact that Latinx artists, they're sort of like have this expectation that they have to talk about certain subjects. So when a collector with a lot of money wants to buy a painting from a Latinx artist, they always think, okay, it has to show racial narrative, and it has to be a religious icon, or I want someone who paints portraits of people with mustaches and Mexican hats, and that's gonna be it. So there's always this extreme frustration that sometimes borderlines trauma in Latinx artists not being able to free themselves from narratives that sometimes they are expected by collectors or museums to represent. So I think that's something that I don't know. I think that's a reality. I'm not saying that's we're not trying to propose a solution for that, but it's important to acknowledge that Latinx artists, they may feel racially handicapped when people expect a certain flavor, color palette, or a subject, and that they have to do in order to be considered to fit that category. So anyhow, we mentioned this because La Guadalupe, this is a representation of the Saint Guadalupe, but it's not the typical representation of Guadalupe. So it's a modern version, it's a contemporary version, and it's a version that breaks conventional representation. So here's an artist, Sherazade, that is, on one end, it's acknowledging and really using her heritage to inform her subject matter, but on the other end, she is free to represent that the way she wants to. So she's not bound by convention, and she's not pressured to represent things in a way that have to conform to someone else's idea of what she as a Latinx artist needs to do. And so I'm gonna now introduce the assignment, essentially, because we were just looking at an article. Let me see if I can just find it. We're gonna use photographs of people. So there's this article, 11 Latina photographers. I think it's an old article because today we would use the term LATINX. Again, remember what we said about how the word Latina for some people in the community just they're not really happy about the connotations of that word. So 11 Latinx photographers you need to know, and then it goes down to mentioning images where Latinx women hold the power, and it talks about at a time when the impact of the female gaze and its importance in photography has become a part of public discourse. Latinx photographers are stepping up to share images where women hold the power. So there are different photographers. Dulce Pinzon, we were not aware. Laura Aguilar, we were aware because at a different year when we observed Hispanic Heritage Month, we did a series of paintings based on or inspired by Laura Aguilar's incredible photographs. And we talked about her story and how and why she was and still is. She passed away, but she was an incredible figure in the visual arts. So Graciela Utirbe, and then Star Montana, Elia Alba, but we're just gonna focus on one photographer. Her name is Helen Salomao. Helen Salomao is a photographer who lives and works in the U.S. and I think she's from Brazil. Gosh, I'm just gonna show two images that we're gonna use as reference, but essentially an interesting conversation. Okay, let me just kind of like share these two images in 1 second because I should have done this, and I have 3 minutes, so just I'll end this in 3 minutes. And thanks for being here. And there's gonna be a little blip. Okay, I think we are here. We're back. So 1 second, because I'm just trying to send the images right now. But essentially, well, there's this transfer. Hopefully that's gonna work. We're just gonna mention that there's more and more there are voices in the community that are screaming louder about Afro Latinx, because again, this idea of, by the way, I don't know if you watch the news today. I mean, who doesn't watch the news? But there was this interesting article about a high school, and I forgot which county, and there was one of the students who produced a very offensive poster that read, "Your father is my gardener," and there was a statement by the high school, and it was in the news, and it's a high school that has the demographics are half students are considered white students and half are Latinx students. So just keep your antennas and eyes and ears open, because there's an effort by journalists to try to bring up issues that affect the Latinx community in a way that feels indirect, but it's pretty much speaks about a dialogue and conversation that people have about representation, or rather misrepresentation of the community. And we're doing this interjection. We're not going to be able to see the images because I don't know what's happening. They're not transferring, but essentially they're images that she took about what broadly are considered Afro Latinx, or Latinx of black skin, I guess, because usually those are always left out, and people have this idea of Latinx culture in Broadway, and that they're all sort of like Mexican or Puerto Rican, and that's it. And but there was a big uproar about a recent movie, I forgot the title, in which there was no representation of Afro Latinx people in the movie at all, and the movie was created and written and produced and whatever by a very famous Latinx person and very important public figure, so who apologized, by the way, for not bringing up bringing up representation of the Afro Latinx culture. So this photographer, Helen Salomao, she is documenting or taking portraits, exquisite, incredible portraits that are free from the bounds of conventional narrative of Latinx culture as people want to see it, of people, Afro-Latinx people. So essentially, it's going to be a portrait assignment. We're going to bring images by Helen Salomao of Afro-Latinx people. Boom, that's it. So thanks for joining us. And what else? 1 second. Yes. We hope this wasn't too crazy, this presentation. We wanted to say a lot. At the same time, we wanted to make it interesting because there's a lot that I think it's important to say. And if you have any comments, we thank you so much for... Yes! Thanks for the comment. We really appreciate it. And you guys are incredible and amazing. And we think this is an important issue, and again, October is tomorrow, and this conversation will be gone. But just it's important to. There's going to be another interesting conversation, but there's still some days to learn more, because I think the bottom the bottom line about this observations, it's not just to sort of like do some virtue signaling and say, hey, we're observing this and we're celebrating it, but expand our knowledge of what happens and why this is important, and expand our language and understand the issues that are important for a certain community that we are sort of like dedicating more time to learn from. So it's not only about virtue signaling, and please be aware that raise a red flag when you see someone doing that, because it's clearly they're only doing it for themselves. But take the opportunity to kind of like expand your knowledge about the issues that are talked about. Go beyond your knowledge. Every year we learn more. Every year there's new language, new people that talk about different issues, about expanding that, and then becoming a little bit much more in tune with that energy. And join us by clicking on our calendar. $20, 2 hours painting, 1 critique. It's awesome, and you should join, because you're gonna learn a lot and you're gonna practice painting, and we are grateful for you joining us, and thank you. Until next week.